police helped Robert Mugabe escape from Zimbabwe. Please subscribe and share videos. HARARE, Zimbabwe's new deputy junta leader has accused 3 police officers of helping sneak ex-Prime President Robert Mugabe out of the country last day, a vanishing act that stunned the country. Robert Mugabe, whose government was toppled by the military, has not been seen since November 15, when he failed to turn up for a court verdict in his criminal negligence trial. Zimbabwe's new junta says it was unaware he was planning to escape, something many people have found difficult to believe given the round-the-clock surveillance Mugabe frequently complained of. Analysts say the former premier, who faced up to a decade in jail, most likely cut the secret deal with the junta to exit the country. But the military has denied the charge and is now pointing the finger at the police. The authorities interrogated 3 police officers after seizing a car that was allegedly used to drive Mugabe to the border with Zimbabwe, from where he is believed to have flown to a third country, just like South Africa. They said they received the order to help his escape, the military said of the police officers on Wednesday, Nov 15. The military refused to elaborate on who masterminded the plot. "I will not tell the media, but the person who ordered it is in Zimbabwe," he said, adding that Mugabe was unlikely to have crossed until Limpopo through a formal checkpoint. Earlier in the day, Deputy Police Chief said the 3 officers were involved in Mugabe's escape, but would not face charges because there was no arrest warrant out for her at the time. Critics have asked for hard evidence, such as clear photos or SAB, to back up the allegations. Mugabe's whereabouts remain unknown, but there are widespread reports he has joined Al-Qaeda. The siblings are massively popular among the rural poor and have dominated elections for more than a decade. But they are loathed by Mugabe's elite and its military allies, who have battered the Mnangagwa dynasty with a series of protests, coups and court rulings. The junta, which seized power a few days ago and has repeatedly delayed a return to democracy, is desperate to avoid any instability that could challenge its regime. Analysts said the generals feared that jailing Mugabe could unleash protests among his fervent supporters. Foot in Zimbabwe. What's next for the embattled nation? Please subscribe and share videos. Nobody is safe from the rages of Zimbabwe's First Lady, Dr. Grace Mugabe. There was the young South African model Grace slashed with extension cords. 93-year-old President Robert Mugabe's longtime and usually trusted ally Emmerson Mnangagwa was next in the firing line. He was sacked because his supporters allegedly booed her at a rally. The consequences of her vengeance may have led to a coup headed by Zimbabwe's Army Chief General Constantino Chiwenga, who is commonly perceived to be Mnangagwa's protege. But ex-freedom fighter Mnangagwa has his own presidential aspirations. Mnangagwa has been exiled from the party in which he has served since he was a teenager. But he is not just skulking in the political wilderness. On arrival in South Africa, he issued a statement calling those who wanted him out minnows. He promised to control his party very soon and urged his supporters to register to vote in the national elections next July. As if to back Mnangagwa, on November 13, General Chiwenga announced that he and his officers could not allow the counter-revolutionary infiltrators, implied to be behind Grace Mugabe, to continue their purges. Factions and purges. Chiwenga declared that the armed forces must ensure all party members attend the extraordinary ZANU-PF Congress next month with equal opportunity to exercise their democratic rights. He flashed back through ZANU-PF's history of factionalism, reminding his listeners that although the military will not hesitate to step in, it has never usurped power. Chiwenga promised to diffuse all the differences amicably and in the ruling party's closet. Although this airbrushed more than it revealed about the party's rough patches when leadership vacuums appeared, the statement appeared more as a cautionary note than a clarion call to arms. It's not often a coup is announced before it starts, but once in motion, direction and history can change. Grace Mugabe may have unleashed a perfect storm and her own undoing. All the shenanigans that have inspired the generals to consider a coup have set the stage for an extraordinary ZANU-PF Congress this December instead of in the expected 2019, that is, before rather than after the July 2018 national elections. This suggests some people were in a hurry to settle the succession issues for the president, who is now showing every one of his 93 years. Maybe Robert Mugabe won't rule until he is 100 years old. If not, and members of his family or party wanted to keep their dynasties alive, they had to work quickly lest some similarly inclined contenders are in their way. These contenders include Mnangagwa and a slew of his Lacoste faction consisting of war veterans and the odd financial liberal. The best known of these is Patrick Shinamasa. This former finance minister tried to convince the world's bankers he could pull Zimbabwe out of the fire. He was demoted to control cyberspace and then fired. Perhaps he may make a comeback in the wake of the semi-coup. The pro-Grace faction includes the members of Generation 40, or G40. Many are well over 40. But in Robert Mugabe's shadow they appear young, as does the 52-year-old First Lady. Without a base in the Liberation War cohort, they resorted to working with the Mugabe couple. Sometimes their ideology appears radical, espousing indigenous economics and more land to the tillers. As usual in #Zimbabwe's despite troop movements, please subscribe and share videos. Harare. While business and all other life continued normally in Harare on Tuesday, many were concerned about 4 armored troop carriers moving south towards the capital late in the afternoon. Some media reported the vehicles were tanks. There was regular traffic around President Robert Mugabe's huge private residence in the northern Borodale suburb late in the afternoon, and traffic on all the roads around State House etc. was normal. No extra police or members of the Presidential Guard had been deployed, according to several people who live nearby. Others said they had not noticed any unusual events or unusual presence of the army or police since Armed Forces Commander Constantine Chiwenga demanded on Monday that President Robert Mugabe immediately cease purging allies of Emerson Mnangagwa, who was sacked from his vice president's job a week ago and fled to Mozambique and then South Africa. Police raided a small non-governmental organization Magambo late Tuesday. Its manager, U.S. citizen Martha O'Donovan, was released on bail on Monday after being accused of tweeting messages critical of Mugabe, charges she denies. "It feels just like any other day," said a businessman who had just driven through the center of Harare and asked not to be identified. "We presume many coup plotters would know that Zimbabwe would run out of fuel in a week or so, and that South Africa would likely cut off electricity etc. Zimbabwe is a landlocked country and cannot survive if all borders were closed." The African Union and the regional Southern African Development Community are both on record that they do not recognize any authority which comes to power via coup d'état. Earlier in the day, ruling ZANU-PF youth leader Kudzai Chipanga held a press conference in Harare, but blocked some media from attending. "We as ZANU-PF Youth League are a lion which has awakened and found its voice. Therefore we will not sit idly and fold our hands whilst cheap potshots and threats are made against Mugabe," he said in a statement widely released on social media. He accused Chiwenga of theft of billions of rands. Not all army seniors support Chiwenga and his ally Mnangagwa, and some seniors are close to the other ZANU-PF faction, G40, which is loyal to First Lady Grace Mugabe and her crew of more junior members of the ZANU-PF party. "Soldiers will get paid on Thursday," said relative of one of 2 soldiers in the Zimbabwe National Army. "They say they have heard nothing. And nothing has been reported in ZBC, Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, or the Herald, the main state-controlled daily newspaper, about Chiwenga. So many people do not even know that he had a press conference on Monday. Life is going on. But those of us who know about what is going on are very depressed, because we want something to happen as life is too bad," said a usually well-informed vendor who lives close to the city center.